interest in World's Fairs came through the lens of a professor of literature who is interested in the cultural side of the world, and who was particularly curious about stories, short stories, narratives, fiction, journalistic pieces, short pieces that were published in newspapers about the Turin 1911 World's Fair. And around that, I wrote a book, and it was called World Fairs Italian Style, the exposition in Turin of 1911. The book did well. It came out in hard copy and then paper, but I realized that the printed medium was not the most appropriate or best way to capture the absolute richness of the universal exhibitions. The World's Fairs, particularly in the age of nation and empires, were really bringing everything that humankind had produced in every sort of human expression, in every discipline, into this concentrated world that was the space of the World Fairs. And I turned to a digital project because I realized that only the flexibility of a digital project would be able to give justice to the great variety of expressions that made up the world of universal exhibitions. This was a world of art. It was also a world of science and technology. It was a world devoted to the future. It was a world devoted to innovation and creativity. And so, in a way, it was a really interdisciplinary world. And I think the way to engage constructively, creatively, analytically, and critically with the World Fairs is through the lens of interdisciplinary studies, where technologists and cultural scholars and literary scholars come together and engage in conversations about the richness of these spaces.
So the project that we're doing in Turin really brings together people from across a broad range of disciplines. So there's different experience and expertise that are reflected in the team that we're building both here on campus and with our colleagues in Turin. And so we have really I think a unique collaboration between arts and humanities and engineering. So for us, we bring through the Cultural Heritage Engineering initiatives the power of engineering to the documentation of historically significant buildings, monuments, sculptures, artwork. And you can, the intersection between the arts and humanities and engineering with respect to cultural heritage is a pretty exciting one. So each of us bring different skills, different perspectives, different motivations, different ways of seeing the world and sharing the world to a project like this. And so on the Turin side, we have researchers that have an expertise in architecture and documenting architecture. And within our group, we have an expertise in basically being able to assess the state of health of structures from the data that we collect in the field. And then on the arts and humanities side, it helps bring this research into a context, into a meaningful context. So what does it all mean? Why were these buildings important? How were they used? How did people interact with these buildings? And those are the stories that, and the research that comes to us from arts and humanities.
So by combining different human senses, right, we can create a much more comprehensive experience. So as part of this project, we're looking at how do we create a visual representation of the environment, the World Fair site itself. How can we record the sounds, right, the reverb that you might experience in a particular room, and how can we now build these two into one more and much more comprehensive virtual reality experience. So you can see and you can hear that site. And it's quite remarkable, having been there, how important it is to really leverage all of your senses to put you back in place, where you can walk across a gravel walkway and you hear literally your foot crunching across the gravel as you see the environment surrounding you. It really pulls you in, it engages you, it creates that empathy that we need, a mode of connection to the target environment. Hearing the ambient sounds, and it's quite intriguing what the human system suddenly does, even though you might not have smell in these virtual environments for starters, something that we definitely will want to look at in the future. These memories get pulled up, having been in that particular environment or something similar. And suddenly it becomes a much, much more vibrant and engaging experience.
When I came to UC San Diego, I realized I had come to the perfect place. What better place to engage in a project that connects engineering and technology with the humanities. But at the same time, the project is in Italy. Turin is in Italy, and Turin 1911 took care in Italy. And I felt that I needed, that was the missing piece, not only because our research takes place there, in the Park of the Valentino, where the World Fairs took place, in the many archives that still have so much unstudied materials on the World Fairs, but I really needed to connect with technologists there, people in Italy who are interested in a similar project. And I was lucky enough to find the perfect partnership with my colleagues led by Filiberto Chiabrando at the Politecnico di Torino. Not only is the Politecnico one of the top universities in Italy, but they have a department of architecture, which we don't have here. So that was the missing piece. Now we are perfectly positioned to really respond to the richness of the material. We have humanists and engineers here at UC San Diego, and we have architects in Italy. So I'm really looking forward to this partnership that has every area that should be represented and every type of expertise that can bear into this project finally coming together.
We start this project with UC San Diego, in particular with the group of Cristina Della Coletta, because it's important from our side and from my group of students that are working in this project, first of all, to understand the history of the area. And starting from that, we have performed in those days several surveys using LiDAR, using photogrammetric techniques, using traditional topographic techniques. And in order to perform a correct survey, we need an expert group of people, and actually we are working with a couple of PhD students. We have as well some fellowship researchers. The very interesting goal of the project is to share information as well with the group of UC San Diego that works in the visualization part.
Dean Della Coletta's research stands to benefit tremendously from the kind of collaboration that we're building here on campus. So this allows us to work with domain experts in the arts and humanities who might approach a project like this using access to different archival documents, or maybe bringing in their ideas and perspectives that come from a very rich research tradition within the arts and humanities, to work with engineering students, staff, and faculty to realize a project that no one group on campus could do alone. So that's the real power of this collaboration, is that there's a real synergy here between the engineers on the project and those who come from a variety of other disciplines.
The digital reconstruction, the 3D reconstruction in virtual reality of the Universal Exhibition will allow us to recreate today the spaces and the itineraries as they were in 1911, but also engage with them critically, understanding what it meant to have the great nations of the West, for example, placed in certain real estate positioning in the Park of the Valentino, what it meant to relegate other areas in the outskirts or on the other side of the River Po, what it means to adjust and transform the itineraries in order to showcase some elements other than others.